Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming. And here we are on week 3. So let's just take time and just get into that nice quiet space, although I know that beautiful music beforehand puts us into that lovely peaceful state. But let's just take some slow, deep breaths. It's a sure way to make us feel calm and peaceful. And now we're going to place our attention on our heartbeat, because we know that is the wonderful gift of life coming down through that silver cord into our heart. It's a pulse of light coming down from our I am presence, our great God presence above us, and anchored in that beautiful threefold flame in our heart. So let's just feel for that heartbeat and listen for it. And we can visualize and see that pulse of light now coming in and actually landing right in our beautiful threefold flame, which we're going to learn about today more. It's beautiful pink, golden, yellow, and blue plumes anchored in our heart. It's the anchorage, it's the light of our I am presence within us. And we just see and feel this beautiful light coming forth now and forming a sun. So let's just visualize in our chest this beautiful sun, just like a noonday sun. Can make it as dazzling and brilliant in our mind's eye as that noonday sun, and we can sense and feel that light, because what we visualize comes into being. We see that beautiful sun, and we see those rays now connecting up with all the miniature suns. In every cell of our body, there's a miniature sun. Each and every little inner worker is conscious and intelligent and loves to be loved and filled with this light. So we're going to see these rays connecting up, and we're going to feel and visualize our bodies filled with that light from our I am presence. We can make it dazzling. So we see our physical body now becoming this blazing light. We can make it a white light with a golden radiance. And we see our etheric body, our mental and emotional bodies, which make up our aura. Just visualize it all becoming this dazzling light. And now we're going to fill our feelings with a feeling of love and gratitude, which really comes down from our I am presence. And we're going to just feel anything that makes us feel grateful. Just love and gratitude for our life. Love and gratitude for these extraordinary and wonderful teachings, giving us the knowledge of our individualized I am presence and the way and means of setting ourselves eternally free at the close of this lifetime. The greatest gift we could ever receive, and assisting all those on our earthly journey. Just love and gratitude to the great and beloved ascended ones that have brought these teachings to us, constantly assisting mankind on earth and all life on our earth. Just love and gratitude to them. Our beloved SAINT GERMAIN and all those assisting him at this critical time on our beloved earth. Love and gratitude for all our earthly blessings, our homes and our loved ones and family and friends. Just love and gratitude to each one of them. And love and gratitude to all the beloved angels that serve us, our own individual guardian angel that has been with us since the very beginning of time. That beloved being served with us lifetime after lifetime. God bless and thank our guardian angels. And just thank all the beloved elemental life that serves us. Not only the animate elemental life, but also the inanimate, so-called. Our computers, our homes, every part of life has intelligence and loves to be loved and thanked, bringing more light. We got this wonderful feeling of love and gratitude now expanding in our heart, because it's a heart feeling, not a head feeling. And we're just going to send these rays out to bless all life on our beloved earth. And we can just connect up now through the power of our beloved iron presence to every heart flame across the earth, both in and out of embodiment. That anchorage of the iron presence in every human soul evolving on this beloved earth. Let's connect up with each and every one. And just imagine the light now as we expand this feeling of love and gratitude from our hearts. And it just expands and fills our entire planet. Fills it with that blanket of pink golden light, because that is the color of love and gratitude. I just imagine the joy. Every part of life, all the elementals, the angels, every part of life receiving love and gratitude on behalf of ourselves and all mankind. Great gift of life. And this ability we have now through this knowledge. And we just give deep, deep thanks for this. And now we're going to say the opening invocation. And I was just wondering, Jay, would you like to read it tonight or read it today? Have you got a mic?
Beloved.
Okay, is your internet not so good? Can you hear? Can you get it? Can you read it? Maybe the internet's not so good. Okay, I'll ask someone else. Don't worry. I'll ask Catherine. Catherine, can you read it?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Anthea. An honor. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Lovely. Okay. Beloved presence of God, I am. It is thy life and intelligence that enables me to read and comprehend and absorb that which is required of me. For life, I am so grateful. Beloved Master Kuthumi, I ask for your feeling and your capacity to use this instruction for God's glory and mankind's comfort. We thank you. And now, great I am presence, take me within thyself. There instruct me and cause me to retain the full memory of these inner instructions. Thank you, from beloved Saint Germain.
Okay, marvelous. Thank you so much. All right, so
Thank you.
pleasure. So we got the topics for the week. We're going to we're going to listen first and foremost to the video that we didn't have time for last week, which is an important message from the great divine director. He really puts it in a nutshell. The great opportunity we have this lifetime through these teachings and what we need to do. And then we're going to learn more about our I am presence, which is really a feeling. It's one thing to have the thought of it, but it's the feeling of us that gives it the real power. And then we are going to just understand more about the description of the chart. I'm going to go through that because that's really important. And we're going to learn more about our beloved Saint Germain. So firstly, we're going to listen to this video. Okay, thank you, everybody. This is an excerpt from the I Am Discourses, Book 8, by the Great Divine Director. The Great Divine Director is called that because for more than 200,000 years, he has been directing cosmic light rays to keep mankind from destroying itself and nature's blessings to the earth completely. He is a most majestic being of such power, glory, and love as no words can describe. And through his marvelous discourses in this book, may there go forth all the light America and the world and the people require to stop all destructive forces on this earth forever. This comes from discourse number 4. Children of the light, of the one great Father, the mighty I Am Presence, how fortunate you are after long, long centuries of your pilgrimage upon earth, in various embodiments similar to this, always reaching out through the heart. Yet the intellect has been constantly refusing the feeling, the action of the heart, having forgotten completely that the heart was the place of divine action. It is true today as it was in the beginning, because your mighty I Am Presence is anchored in your heart. It makes your physical heart, the heart of your mighty I Am Presence, in action. As you come to know your presence is above you, then giving it your attention, it brings into your outer world of activity the power of your presence, whose anchorage in the octave of the human life is in your physical heart. Saint Germain, after working for so many centuries for mankind, determined to try to awaken people again. Every time he would raise them to a certain point, rebellion in the human feeling at the discipline required for the release of the mighty energy from their own presence of God would swing them aside. In our discussions, we had to decide what was the most powerful means by which this assistance could be given mankind. And I said to him, I am willing to try with you and make a final effort to release the light within enough of mankind so the people may have the blessings which it holds for them. The light in your body comes from your beloved mighty I Am Presence and nowhere else. The persons who do not believe the I Am Presence is there, as described in this chart, will remain in their chains. No one may say they shall not do so if they wish. That is within the choice of the individual. But I tell you, never in the history of this earth has there been such tremendous release of light and energy to bless mankind as is coming forth at this time. We are not compelling humanity to accept and use this, but we can and do give it forth with greater and greater release of power and energy, as the students' attention to their mighty I Am Presence prepares them for it. If they will feel the directions given, there is not a thing in the world which can prevent their freedom, success, and ascension. I want you to realize this, if you will, precious ones. There is no time in human life and experience when mankind has not been guarded by those great ascended beings and the great cosmic beings. Otherwise, mankind would not exist today because of the accumulation of the discordant creations which the people have drawn into the atmosphere of earth. Their accumulated discord is the so-called astral or psychic world. In it, there is nothing but destructive qualities generated and brought forth by mankind throughout the countless centuries, ever since mankind turned away from the acknowledgement of each one's mighty I Am Presence, and that is many, many centuries ago. I would not care to even draw your attention to the length of time, but today, for the first time in the history of the earth, there has been released this knowledge of the Ascended Masters in its minutest detail. So mankind, if the people would take advantage of this through their calls to the presence, can free themselves wholly and completely. By the use of the violet-consuming flame, they can release themselves from every discordant thing which they have ever drawn about them. The individual who is foolish enough not to wish to use the violet-consuming flame will remain in his chains and limitations. Without the use of it, you cannot free yourself from your own creations, and so far as it being harmful is concerned, that is positively foolish. For the reason, the human cannot produce the violet-consuming flame. Your presence, who is all perfection, is the only one, aside from the Ascended Masters, who can produce that violet-consuming flame. At your call, the presence rushes it through your body and through your world of activity and creations, dissolving all discordant creations from you and your world. That is the way it sets you free, and is the means by which you can, through the assistance of your presence and the call to the Ascended Masters, so purify your body, the presence can enable you to make the ascension. The use of the tube of light about you is imperative. If you wish to move in your world untouched by discordant human creation about you, it is the only way you can do it. This is an excerpt. Okay, all right. So there is the words from that great beloved cosmic being, the great divine director. And as we know, I think we did say that last week, that he was the great teacher of SAINT GERMAIN, Jesus, Lord Cthulhu, Lord Betrayer, and many of the Ascended Masters. He has been the teacher, and also of us, their students. So it's just a wonderful reminder for us all. So we're going to go through the tube of light. We're going to go through the violet flame over the weeks and understand more about it and how we can put it into action. All right. So understanding God. So God in the abstract and God individualized is a point of dogma which has been the basis of controversy for ages, which is true. And we know the word God comes from the word good, actually. So they say God is everywhere. God is spirit. There is no nook, nor corner, nor cranny where God is not. These are the statements of the abstract presence of the palpable body of God. But can one have a spirit without a focus? Can one have, even in the unascended realm, an aura without a human being? Can one have the Spirit of God without the presence of an intelligence, of a thinking and feeling being from whence that spirit ensues? No, as above, so below. And the typical example is the candle. So you can't have a light without a wick. So we need to understand that, so that they are individualized. We are all individualized beings, and the Ascended Masters are individualized beings. And in our universe, which is, as we have learned, is actually a small universe of only 49 planets, the head of our universe, the head of the hierarchy of the whole universe, is Alpha and Omega. And that's where the name I Am came from. Alpha, our Father God; Omega, our Mother God. Alpha and Omega, I Am. So that's why there's such a power behind that word. And so it's good to remember that actually I Am is a name. Let's get on to the next slide here. But it is a name. It's not, and it just happens to be in the English language, because I guess it was, well, I know it was definitely planned many, many hundreds of years ago, probably a few thousand years ago, between, when the Christian dispensation was actually in place. They were already planning what was going to happen now during this time. And the most prevalent language used on the planet is English. So that's why they probably used it like that. Anyway, our I am presence needs a body. So we are the body. We are the instrument through which our I am presence can fulfill its divine plan in this lower realm through us. All right. So we chose when we first, took embodiment to come down into this lower realm and become more masterful on a physical planet. And apparently only 1 in 12 of the spirit sparks that are born from Alpha and Omega choose to actually come down and take a physical body. But we were never meant to have such a dense physical body. This is where we all fell from grace. So now we are on the rise again, and we are going back into that permanent golden age where our bodies won't be as dense, and they certainly won't age and get sick and all the rest of it. And we will choose when we would like to dematerialize our bodies instead of dying. All that's going to start changing. We're going to get back to the original way that it used to be in the Garden of Eden. And we know that Eden means divine wisdom. So this is what Jesus says: marvelous things stem forth from the inner spheres, which must be channeled through a receptive consciousness. And that's our great opportunity here. So we are the body of our I am presence here in the physical world, and every single soul has an important purpose. Our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions either outpicture the will of our I am presence or not. And we have the choice. So our lives outpicture the sowing, because cause and effect is mathematically accurate. But we're also told now that since 1929, the free will of human beings is basically not as it used to be. It's being curtailed a bit, because it's absolutely critical now that this planet go forth and emit light, because that's what it has to do. And the light comes from each one of the beings living on it. So, and as we know, free will is our greatest gift, because without free will, we have no ability to create. So it's just the great gift. So the great gift of the knowledge of our I am presence, this is from the great divine director. He says, to think of God as an omnipresence is but to receive a fragmentary part of its power. Only as you have an individualized focus can you have a greater power. And that makes sense, because the more we get close to our I am presence, the more we just call it into action. And we know without any shadow of a doubt that as we make that call, so our beloved presence goes into action and does the perfect work. So we can constantly be calling, if we're traveling or wherever we are, if there are people in need, and it can be said silently. We don't have to say it aloud. We can say it aloud if we are in a position where we can say it aloud, but often it can be just said quietly. So it is our first port of call, and the Ascended Masters always first and foremost turn us back to our I am presence. And it's through the I am presence that we call to the Ascended Masters, actually. So it is such a great boon to actually have this knowledge, which has always been, but now is brought in a way which is so easy to understand. It's not hidden in parables, and the occult law is lifted, as we learned in the last week. No longer is anything hidden. It is there in plain sight for all those that choose to take it and understand it. So I am is the name of God, as we said. So Moses was told that when he went up to the burning bush, and he asked the burning bush, who must I tell the Israelites is giving me this knowledge? And it replied, I am that I am, that is my sacred name. Go and tell the Israelites, I am sent you. So there we had it. And beloved Jesus, he's actually the great angel Michael, the great cosmic angel of unity. He says, when an individual thinks, feels, speaks, or writes the words, I am, he immediately receives the attention of life within him as well as around him. Why? Because the words I am are the signal to intelligent life to create, and life will obey you. It always has. That's why it's so important that we don't say anything after I am that is negative. We just nip it in the bud. And as Saint Germain says, we reverse that fatal activity. We never say, I am sick, I am poor, I am tired, I am hot or cold, or any of the negative things, not angry. because there it is, because we are the creators down here, and we use the light from our I Am Presence to create. All right, so we're going to listen to a video now. It's from, it's about the power of our I Am Presence from beloved Saint Germain and the Magic Presence. The book, The Magic Presence, a wonderful book that we all need to read. This is an excerpt from The Magic Presence by Godfrey Ray King, a discourse by Saint Germain. Through his consciousness, every human being can release the limitless power of the mighty I Am Presence. When one disciplines his outer faculties and makes them obedient to his conscious command of perfection, he is then able to let this tremendous power flow through him unobstructed, and to use it constructively. Within each of you is the same mighty power that I am using. You can use it as I do, when you acknowledge, accept, and admit at all times that the mighty I Am Presence is always in action. This is the cosmic Christ, and the only consciousness in the universe that can say, I am. The thinking flame of God is the only activity of life anywhere in manifestation that can acknowledge its own individualization, use the creative word of God, and send it forth into the universe to cause manifestation. Only the Son of God, which means the individual with free will, can decree as God decrees and say, I am. Whatever quality follows that sound, spoken into the ethers, becomes a manifestation in the world of substance, and thus becomes a form. When the individual says, I am, he is using the creative attribute of the Godhead and announcing creation at his particular point in the universe. The vibratory action of the word I am, either in thought or spoken word, is the release of the power of creation, and whatever quality follows that decree is instantly imposed upon the electronic substance in the ethers. This being the only substance and energy in existence, whose nature is to be qualified in some manner, it must outpicture the pattern within the decree. If the decree is always for perfection, then the experiences in the individual's world express the fullness of the plan of life. But if the individual does not send forth that decree, it is impossible for that perfection to outpicture in his experiences, until the decree is released into the ethers in which he lives. Every individual can think perfection at every instant, if he only will, and it takes no more substance and energy to build beautiful, perfect forms and experiences than it does the imperfect. But if the individual wants this perfection expressed in his world, he must use his own energy to utter the decree, which will release that perfection unto him. Such is the law of his being, and nothing can change it. Life is the only presence, intelligence, and power that can act or ever did act. These three activities within life are coexistent everywhere. The pure electronic light, which fills infinity, is the self-luminous, intelligent substance of the mighty I Am Presence, existing at all points, and of which all forms are composed. Discord and limitation can build a film, so to speak, around the substance, shutting off, at least to some degree, the radiance of its light. But imperfection of any kind can never enter into the electronic substance itself. The discords and limitations that humanity has wound around itself are due to the activities of the intellect and the emotions, which have not been trained to look within the light of the individual's own mighty I Am Presence for the plan of perfection upon which each one should construct all his outer activities. This perfect plan does not exist anywhere except within the mighty I Am presence. When the intellect and emotions are purified and illumined by the light of this great presence, then the perfect ideas and activities within it can flow through the personality without becoming distorted by the fragmentary information in the outer activity of the consciousness. The reports of the human sense consciousness are merely unillumined activities, for when light is directed into them from the mighty I Am presence, they melt into its glorious perfection at once. Love, peace, balance, order, and perfect activity, or the coordination of all outer activities with the patterns of perfection from the presence, can only be brought about by the one great light, the I Am. There and only there does the design of perfection ever exist. If the student or individual will fix his attention with determined tenacity and hold it upon the mighty I Am presence, he can release such divine love, light, wisdom, power, courage, and activity as he cannot possibly comprehend at present. Divine love contains the perfect activity of every attribute of the Godhead. When the individual enters the conscious path of self-mastery, he should understand and realize that from then on he is obligated to accomplish everything he attempts by the power of divine love from within his own I Am presence. He must know unmistakably and remember at all times that divine love contains within it the complete wisdom and almighty power of the mighty I Am presence. Whoops. Okay, there. So we can also remember that Jesus prefaced all his statements with I am, his famous statements, where he said, I am the way, the light, and the truth. I am the open door that no man can shut. I am the resurrection and the life of all perfection. So Jesus knew very well the power of his I Am presence. But he said, we were told at that time that the consciousness of humanity was at such a low ebb that not many people really actually understood. And so he only shared it with actually very few people. So this is also what we learn from the books, is its is derived from am. So it's the feminine aspect of our mother god, Omega. And Saint Germain says that we should use I am instead of at all times, because it's only half. Then we get the full power of the Godhead. And he also says when we should say I am instead of amen, which was also originally derived from the word I am, amen, but it does have no meaning. So it's sort of a new teaching. When you first bring it forth, often it's difficult for people and they find it difficult to accept it, but it's all true. It's straight from the Ascended Masters. And actually, when we think about it, it all makes sense. So it's really good. And when you start reading the books, you'll get all this knowledge. And this is from the great divine director. And this is truly key. He says, never forget, you must remove the feeling in you that something outside of you has more power than the light within you, which is obviously the light of the great I Am presence, because nothing has more power than the great light within us. And so that's all the different things that challenge us outside. Whatever we're on, whatever journey we're on, whether we're driving or whether we're handling things with, difficult personalities, whether we're hearing sort of reports of dangerous things like 5G or whatever it is, that power, nothing can touch you when you call to the I Am presence to protect you, nothing. So that's a really good thing for us always to remember, because otherwise, we're adding to the collective consciousness of that negativity, which is actually, all part of the sinister forces plan. And I continued, they're super sneaky, that energy. So we want to always add to the collective consciousness of positivity and that supreme light, which is really, it's the only way we're going to get through here. So this is from Beloved Pallas Athena, and I popped this in here. I just thought it was really good. It's from the Dictations. She says, mastery lies within the reach of the individual who can observe imperfection and not allow rebellion, hate, resentment, and depression to churn within the feeling world, but who can, within the heart of the sacred fire of which you are the guardians, that's within our threefold flame in our heart, call and firmly and powerfully assert it is not true. Call for the manifestation of truth within that live stream. Now, if you remember last week, we listened to that small clip by that guy, and that's exactly what happened with that movie that's out, where she said, it's not true. I don't believe it. It's just a possibility, a potential. So it's up to us now to bring and lower into the realm the golden age, which must come forth. But we are the ones that the Ascended Masters need to lower it into our beloved earth. And then she says, do you think for one fraction of a moment, hundreds and thousands of God beings would have denied themselves the glory and freedom of nirvana and remained in the shadows of such creations that I would not describe them to you if we tied our attentions to the discrepancies and manifest through the outer selves of mankind? That manifests through the outer selves of mankind. You think you are sensitive, dear hearts, through your limited senses, through the small spectrum which your physical sight allows you to observe, and the very small octave in which your hearing perceives, and the sounds of the third dimensional plane. But when you have the senses of complete freedom, you can hear the sounds of the inner bodies and yet remain within that calm peace and demand that God be revealed through the distressed live stream. Then indeed you become ourselves in action. And that's it. Every time we see somebody that's in a fallen state, just say we see people without homes, or we see them struggling in their lives. And I pass it often because I'm on the road a lot in my home. And I just straight away call to the Iron Presence and the Christ Self of that one to take command. And then I ask for all those across the face of the earth in a similar position, and just release the violet flame and take command of those live streams. And there we have done what we need to do. And our Iron Presence has the freedom with which to do it. Because the law is that the realm in need must make the call. So the Iron Presence can't come down here, or the Ascended Masters, and sort out our problems unless we make the call. If they did, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in. The proof of that is written across the face of our earth. The law, that's the law. And so it is our great privilege and opportunity to make the calls for those who don't yet know how to make the calls. So the chart is very important, and it came in the 1930s. Beloved Saint Germain knew that we were going to need a picture of our presence. And now that's understandable, because if somebody tells us something and we've got no idea what they're talking about, unless there's some picture of it, we're not going to really grasp it. And so that was when he spoke to this woman, Maida Camera, in the 30s, and he asked her to actually produce this image, which she did. And that's the image pretty much you can see on the left. And the first image that came through in the 1930s, it didn't actually put in the Christ self, which is, I don't know if you can see my cursor, which comes in there. It's an intermediary. But that was the first image, and very, very important, they say, for this whole movement to have this picture with this chart. And so there are differences between the 1930s and the 1950s. We're going to go into that a little bit more in the next slide. So, and it has an energy and a vibration that is purely divine. In fact, the Ascended Masters say, if we just look at the chart, often light comes from it. I remember one time I was actually running a course in Zimbabwe, and I took, because I've got like I've got an I Am Presence chart, and I put it into like a canvas with a frame, and I took it off the wall. It was hanging on the wall, and suddenly somebody said, "Oh, a ray of lights comes straight out of the canvas, the I Am Presence there." That was one of the girls that was there. So, it has a vibration. It's just purely divine. And he also suggests that we make a copy of it and put it into our rooms. So, or our sanctuaries, wherever we are. So we can see that on the left side is the picture of the chart in the 1930s, and in the 1950s, it's different. So this chart on the right side from the 50s was actually done by Werner and Annette Schroeder from the Ascended Master Teaching Foundation. They brought it in. And because in the 1950s, a lot more was given in about the rays. So the rays are in the position actually that they are around our causal body. And they also introduced the Christ self, or the higher mental body. So I'm just going to go through a bit of an understanding here. But I think in the beginning, why Saint Germain didn't put the Christ self in there, although when Guy and Edna Ballard described the chart, they did mention the Christ self. But because Saint Germain wanted us to really go straight to our I Am Presence, because the Christ self is part of the presence, but in a lower frequency. And the power, as we know, is the I Am. So we've got 4 lower vehicles, 4 lower bodies down here. We've got our physical body, which is just really our vehicle, literally. So when we pass on to just say so-called death, there is no death. We just actually change, as the Ascended Masters say, change clothes. That's our physical body. And then interpenetrating and extending out from our physical body, about 3 or 4 inches, is our etheric body, which is also known as our soul. And that is the body that is like a memory body. And it actually has every single memory of all we have ever done in every lifetime, both good and bad. That is our soul. And that is the body which is really important, as well as the mental and emotional bodies afterwards, that needs to have all the etheric scars purified, because those etheric scars are there until they are actually transmuted with the violet flame. That's why Saint Germain asked her to put the violet flame around our tube of light there, because it's very, very important to be constantly aware that that violet flame transmutes, literally erases, it's a spiritual eraser, all those memories which are not of the light. Just say we were burned at the stake, or we fell off a cliff, or we did something. That etheric memory is in our soul. And until it is erased by the violet flame, it is still there. And also we might have had lifetimes with, with people that we're in embodiment with at the moment, which were like irksome. And that can erupt at the slightest provocation sometimes. So until those memories are erased, we still sometimes react to people. But once the memory is erased, we actually just stop reacting. And there's no eruptions like that, because it's just gone. It's just absolutely magic. So, and don't forget, we've had hundreds, some of us thousands of lifetimes. So there's that much of those scars that need to be transmuted with that violet flame. That's why daily we call it in. We then have extending out again from our physical body out further, our mental body and our emotional body even further. And it basically extends like 3 or 4 feet all the way around us. So we're in like this tube of light. So it's circular. So this is just a flat chart, but it's actually circular. It's like we're in this, almost you could put it like a tube or a bottle. And so that is our 4 lower bodies. So they need to be purified in order for us to go up and actually achieve our ascension. And then, because once the purified bodies are, and we have balanced our use of life, then we can then actually literally ascend into our Christ self and into the I Am Presence, and we become those ascended masters at one, which means atonement, at one-ment with our I Am Presence. That's where the word atonement comes from, is at one-ment. So we have the three higher bodies, all right? There's the Christ self, which the I Am Presence actually created, because it's an intermediary. It's almost, the Ascended Masters refer to it as like a stepped down transformer. And it is, it literally takes up our calls up to our I Am Presence, and out go those rays, if it be in the best, according to our best plan of action at the time. It might be, that's why it's always in our calls, thy will, not ours, because the I Am Presence is infinitely wise and knows exactly. So we have the those rays which go out. Just say we're in need of a car. The I Am Presence and the Christ self will take up those calls, and out will go the rays, and in will come the car, if we don't block it with our lack of faith and our thinking and our doubt. So it's just like that. So that is one of the higher bodies. So it's a lower frequency than our I Am Presence, which is in the image and likeness of God. That is exactly where those words come from, the image and likeness of God. And then around I Am Presence, you can see the bands of color, and they are actually these huge circles of color. They're not flat as they are on this picture. They are circular, and they literally, it is our causal body, and it stores all the good that we have ever done in any embodiment is stored up there. Jesus referred to it as our treasure stored in heaven, and it literally is that. So when we make the calls to our I Am Presence, just say we need healing. So that is on the green ray. It comes down and we receive the healing. And whatever we need, just say we're needing to feel more love for somebody, in comes the pink ray. And so it does. And as we feel more love, so it adds to that pink ray. As we have more illumination or wisdom about something, so it adds to the golden yellow ray. And we're going to go more into the rays, but not today, or maybe a little bit today, but it's something we will learn about more. So those are the 7 bodies. We've got the 3 higher bodies. We've got the I Am Presence, the causal body, and our Christ self. And then we've got our 4 lower vehicles. That's the 7 bodies. And when we have balanced our use of life, which we conceive our causal body, because it becomes balanced. Every breath we take, we are using life. And everything we do to assist in the expansion of the light starts to balance our use of life. And so we can then take our ascension. And once we've purified our bodies with the use of that violet flame. So I hope that is useful for you. But bearing in mind, there's a lot of information on the website, and you do have the links for this. So this is what beloved Saint Germain says: the chart represents for you your true identity. Every human being on this earth, in every embodiment, has sought how to make his permanent contact with God, which is light. Will you tell me how many people have ever done it? They have intermittent flights of inspiration and felt its touch very much, but no one was able to hold it, and no one until he understands the source of light. So this chart represents for us. It gives you the correct idea of your own I Am Presence, your mighty I Am Presence, which is with God. We are one with our I Am Presence. So the more good we do, the more we are really fulfilling our divine plan, which comes down through our I Am Presence, that still small voice within. So the Holy Trinity, that is anchored within our hearts. It's the threefold flame within our heart. And it is a beautiful, dazzling color. We've got the blue plume on the left-hand side, because if you look at the picture now, it's facing up. So when we look at the Christ self, which is actually within us as a miniature of the Christ self, we've got the blue plume on the left side, the golden yellow plume of wisdom in the center, and the pink plume on the left. So the Father is the power, the masculine, or the thought. The Son, or the wisdom, S-U-N and S-O-N, sons and daughters, is the golden yellow plume, and it's the light of wisdom. And then on our right side is the Holy Spirit. It's the love, it's the feeling, it's the feminine side, the feminine aspect. So the anchorage of our I am presence in each and every one of us is in the form of this beautiful threefold flame. And the size of our flame will be determined by our application and trustworthiness. So if we are not trustworthy with the light, in mercy, our I am presence actually won't expand that threefold flame in our hearts, because it would not be merciful. If we're just flying off the handle, if we're angry, get angry easily, or if we get depressed, or we get fearful or whatever, it wouldn't be merciful. I'll tell you why, because the light expands everything. So then it becomes karma, and it's ours, we've actually created it. So that's the great need of the self-control and self-correction at all times. We just need to constantly be aware that our mental and emotional bodies are our responsibility to control and correct. And through the use of the violet flame, which we will go more into over the weeks, we can literally blaze and transmute the cause of all those disturbances that come into our mental and emotional bodies. So when we see pictures of saints and sages in old pictures, we see that they are surrounded by these auras of light. That's because the Christ self within has expanded. So it's a really important thing. So when I remember one time Norman was given, the great divine director gave him this great gift where his consciousness was taken right into the threefold flame in his heart, literally. And he saw the beautiful threefold flame. He was given like a vision, and he saw his Christ self standing there, and he could see it was him. It was a miniature version of him, but absolutely perfect. No aging, no weight, nothing, absolutely perfect. And he says it was just one of the most amazing things he ever experienced. And he knows that that perfect Christ self is within him. And so it is with each and every one of us. So it's a wonderful thing to remember. This is a lovely and an important thing for us always to remember. I of myself can do nothing. The Father within is that doeth, and the Father within doeth the work. So that was what Jesus says. Because really we have to, if we start thinking it's us, if we start allowing the sort of human personality to think that we're doing the work, then we're instantly in this dodgy spot, because it's just not us. That's why humility and humbleness are critical. That's why all the great way showers, they've always been the real humble ones. I mean, Jesus was a carpenter, so was Joseph. Beloved Lord Gautama left the beloved royal household and became this beggar because he had to know how the people felt. Moses, as we know, was that very humble being, and he felt that he wasn't worthy to do what he was asked to do because he had this terrible stutter and had to get Aaron to speak for him. And so it goes on. And often the personality can be a barnacle. So we need to really be aware of that because the personality is just something we've created this lifetime, and we've had hundreds of lifetimes. So we just need to, make sure that the personality doesn't get ahead of itself, that really we are here to fulfill our divine plan. So we're either human or divine. The Ascended Masters differentiate between the human and the divine. And that's an important thing. Are we being human or are we being divine? And the Ascended Masters specialize in the higher realms. It's very nice to know that. And that's something you'll learn over the years, because this work is not the work of just this workshop. It's the work of your lifetime now, because it's who you are. And it's your time to do the ascension, otherwise you wouldn't be here learning it. So there's no fooling with the law, because the law of the circle of cause and effect, or as we sow, so we reap, it's all the same law, is mathematically accurate. So we need to be very, very careful with our thought, feeling, word, and action, because it either is recorded for good or not good. And whatever we have sent out creates our worlds. But now we have this wonderful opportunity to redeem that karma, set all life free we've ever hurt or harmed, and achieve our ascension. So it's very, very important to train ourselves also to have no opinions about others. So that's quite something. It doesn't mean to say that we don't, that we condone the imperfection, not at all. But we just know if something's going amiss with somebody, they need more light. They don't need our criticism and judgment. They need more light. So that is our great gift. I love the 4 agreements. It's a wonderful book. I'm sure you all know the 4 agreements, but the 4 agreements actually are really good to remember. So in a nutshell, the 4 agreements are that we always do our very, very best. We never take anything personally, and we try never to give offense nor take offense, which is taking nothing personally. We always, and we don't make assumptions, and we be impeccable with our words. So those are really important things to try and remember. And I love these words. I just found this is such a lovely thing. The more you are grateful about your life, even if you don't have everything yet that your heart desires, the more positive things and positive people will come into your life. And that's exactly it. They say, the Ascended Masters, gratitude is one of the quickest way to open the door to the many, many gifts from our I Am Presence. I say to my children sometimes, turn grumpy into gratitude. All right. So, and the other thing we're told is gossip. It's really a dangerous thing. And the great divine director actually defines it as anything negative. So that whether we're thinking negatively about governments or we're thinking negatively about people or conditions or whatever it is, we're adding to those shadows. We're not adding to the light. Saint Germain has actually said he'd rather have 1,000 arrows come at him than say one negative thing about another. So our job is to really, if we see imperfection, if we see people, not behaving, we call to our own presence. We don't have to say a word. We just say to our own presence, take command of that live stream, hold your dominion over it, and produce your perfection, because that is our great gift. And so we stay away, because negative people will often seek empathy. This is quite a good little slide I found from others to reinforce a negative pattern. It's a habit with humanity. So we need to change the subject. If we find people coming to us and they're distressed or whatever it is, just help them by sending them light. Not because sympathy is actually agreeing with the imperfection. So what we need to be is compassionate, and the Ascended Masters define compassion is actually giving constructive ideas as to how they may overcome things. So that's really where we can come into the light and help others. So the earth is our schoolroom. I think we all know that. And the things we need to nip in the bud in our mental and emotional bodies and our feelings is any rebellion, blame, or resistance. Because unfortunately, we've had all these lifetimes, and we might have been had really difficult times in situations. A lot of people are very rebellious about religions because it's been, it's a difficult thing. I remember I was very rebellious, but now I know that it's just for me to send light into all those dark places. It's not for me to have rebellion in my feelings or blame. And so that's the great importance of constantly examining ourselves and looking at what we're actually harboring in our feelings and worlds. So just want to go through this again. So every 2,000 years, a ray becomes predominant. So I think we know that. And so we are now in the 7th ray. So we could see from we'll just go back quickly to the slide here, where we got these 7 rays. We can see these 7 rays here around in our causal body. They literally are the predominant rays. And every 2,000 years, one of these rays, when I say they're the predominant rays, they are the main rays, because there are many sub-rays as well. But they are the main rays on this planet. And every 2,000 years, a ray becomes predominant, and that is the great gift to the earth. And every day a ray becomes predominant, also as a gift to the earth. So We are now in the 7th ray, which is the ray of the violet ray, the violet flame. And it is such a blessing and divinely planned in the higher realms, because that is the ray which literally transmutes and forgives. We wouldn't actually manage if we didn't have this ray predominant, because it's always in the atmosphere, especially when we call it into action. And it is that ray which literally transmutes. It's that ray of divine alchemy. And Saint Germain is the Chohan, or the Lord. Now we know Lord means law. So he is bringing in the law of this 7th ray. And it's going to be for the next 2000 years. And he basically took over from beloved Jesus, who brought in the Christian dispensation for 2000 years, which was really to bring in the feeling of the Christ within each and every one of us. But as we know, the Christian dispensation unfortunately went a little askew, and people thought that Jesus was the only Son of God, although he never ever said that. He said, what I have done, you will do, and greater things too. And he said, ye are gods. So he never said that he was the only one, but people, it's the same story with humanity. We often want someone else to save us instead of doing the work ourselves. So now we have the knowledge of the work that needs to be done, and we can do it, because that is the great understanding in these simple, wonderful teachings that Saint Germain has brought to us. It's just not going to happen that we do our ascension. We have to transmute and consume all life that we have harmed. Because in the ascended realm, it's absolute shadowless light. There are no shadows at all. And we need to balance our use of life. So it's a wonderful thing that we have now. So it's a 14,000-year cycle, basically. Every 2,000 years, one of the 7 major rays becomes predominant. But we're at the end of this 14,000-year cycle now, because there is the violet ray. All right, so we haven't got that much time. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to go and learn more about Saint Germain next week, because time actually goes so fast. But I'm just going to do a little bit more about Saint Germain and what he has achieved. So he's brought to us this extraordinary knowledge. It's his responsibility and his great gift, actually, and his great his gift to all humanity, this knowledge of our own presence and how to set ourselves free. And so we have this wonderful opportunity. But I've got some lovely things that I'm going to share with you about Saint Germain, but we're not going to have time to do it tonight or today, because time has run away and we're already on our hour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this forward now, and we will go through onto the closing invocation. And I'm just thinking now, who would like to read that for us? I'm just thinking who is used to reading it. Roxanne, can you read it again, beloved? I'm just going to ask you, then when people get used to it, then they can read it. Thank you.
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you. Beloved, I am presence, and beloved Master Kuthumi, nourish the seeds planted in my consciousness so that the ideas entrusted to me become manifest flowers of perfect expression in my world and the world of all my fellow men. Beloved presence of God, I am, pour the light of thy great glory upon my consciousness and nourish the seeds planted by the masters. We thank you.
Thank you so much, beloved Roxanne. All right, so there we have it. Let's just take a moment now just to still our minds and feelings, and we'll just fill our feelings with a feeling of gratitude for what we've received.